Honourable Member for Castries South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to start by joining the Honourable Member for Mico South, Prime Minister, in wishing St. Lucians the happy independence anniversary, the 49th anniversary of our independence. And I'm certainly looking forward, Madam Speaker, to a number of activities in Castries South that will be commemorating our independence anniversary. I would have hoped, Madam Speaker, that the Prime Minister probably would have said some more about what's been organized around the island and what is available for various constituencies to be able to organize activities to commemorate independence, because I have a number of groups in my constituency that are interested in organizing activities and face significant difficulty in getting assistance to do so. Only yesterday I called the Castries Constituencies Council to look for some bunting, and I was told that it is the Ministry of Social Transformation that deals with that. I called the ministry and was told that there is no bunting available. And a simple thing as buntings to put up in communities, Madam Speaker, could be quite a difference for the look and feel of independence. And one would have hoped such simple things would have been available. But, Madam Speaker, we will do the best we can in our various communities. The second point, Madam Speaker, I want to just raise, Madam Speaker, has to do with the presentation of statements, Madam Speaker, and to ask you whether or not, and I would wish that you would guide me, the full statement of what was said in the House is actually captured somewhere. So, for example, it may very well be, for the Hansards that I have reviewed, they've not really had statements, because the Honourable Member for Castries South is actually said a lot more than what is contained in the statement. Now, it could be you ad-lib as you present, and the totality of what is said needs to be captured, because if we just take the simple statement that is circulated, I'm saying there is the impromptu ad-lib that takes place, and I would trust that for full disclosure, the entire statement is in fact captured somewhere, Madam Speaker, and hopefully it will be enhanced. And you may wish, Madam Speaker, to just, provide information, because I am not sure. Now, Madam Speaker, well,
I can answer immediately and tell you and inform you that the Hansard recording would be verbatim. So it would have, you can get a copy through the Hansard reports of the entirety of the Honourable Minister's statement. Okay? Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I had not intended to say anything this morning, but whilst the Honourable Member for Library was speaking, I noted a lot of laughter and dismissal on the other side, Madam Speaker, almost as if the comments being made by the member from Library were frivolous and has been described as preschool. Now, Madam Speaker, let's not take this preschool comment lightly. When the Prime Minister of a country says that 43% of the male in the labor force have only had a preschool education, it is a serious indictment of our men in this country and of our labor force. And whereas the member from Library said that he is part of that 43% of the labor force, Madam Speaker, it is a serious statement, and we should not just laugh at those things. This is the business of the country. This is the leadership of the country. And when you say things, they have meaning and they convey messages about your country and about your people. But, Madam Speaker, there was a lot of laughter. And I thought, Madam Speaker, I should say my little piece about the motion, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, it is made to look as if this is usual, this is what is expected, and this is nothing to talk about. Madam Speaker, is that really the case? It is provided, Madam Speaker, it is provided that government will operate overdraft facilities for managing short-term debt. It is provided. You don't have to use it. You don't have to use it. But you can use it if there is a need to use it. You follow me, Madam Speaker? Every 6 months, you are required to seek parliamentary approval to be able to operate the overdraft facility. you operate an overdraft facility if you don't have the revenue available. Madam Speaker, anybody, business or household will tell you, you don't go and operate an overdraft facility where you incur interest if there's no need to do so. If you have the cash in your pocket, if you have the cash, otherwise, Madam Speaker, you don't have to go and use the overdraft facility. You use the overdraft facility because there is a necessity to use it. And the Prime Minister made mention of the regional mechanism that we have in place where short-term financing can be obtained. So in addition to if you have the revenue, you have that option. And when all else fails, Madam Speaker, which happens very often, we're not denying that, Madam Speaker, then you use the overdraft facility. But Madam Speaker, for me, I need to ask whether or not the $55 million has already been spent or committed, and therefore this is just the mechanism to be able to meet those payments, whether or not it has not been spent, and it will be spent over the next 6 weeks, because the financial year ends the end of March. Think about it. In 6 weeks, the financial year will end. Why is there a necessity, Madam Speaker, to borrow $55 million, Madam Speaker, for expenditure over the next 6 weeks? $55 million. Why is there such a necessity? So if it has not already been spent, it is for forecasted expenditure. And the Prime Minister mentioned, or he probably gave a hint of it, he said, we have salaries to pay, we have water bills to pay. I assume it's at Beausejour and at Mindo Philip Park, because by the way, Madam Speaker, I heard school sports is now being cancelled because schools will not use the facilities because there's no water, Madam Speaker. A very sad state of affairs when you have free sports ministers, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, on a more relevant note, Madam Speaker, what this tells us, Madam Speaker, is about the borrowing and lending policy of this government. And I say lending, Madam Speaker, because I want to explain it, Madam Speaker. This is the government that came into power saying that there will be no borrowing. That there will be no borrowing, Madam Speaker. They said so. They promised the people of St. Lucia and said over and over during the campaign that the Labour Party under Kenny D'Antoni was borrowing too much money. And therefore, we will cease borrowing. Now, the Prime Minister has backtracked and he said, I did not say no borrowing. I said no borrowing unless there is a revenue stream. That's what he has come back and he's tried to mitigate the statement. But he did say no borrowing, that he would stop borrowing. Yeah. But we have not seen any stop in borrowing. In fact, Madam Speaker, in the estimates for this current financial year, we have one of the highest levels of borrowing in the history of this country, from a government that said it was not going to have any more borrowing, Madam Speaker. So the motion today, Madam Speaker, puts to scrutiny. What is the policy of the government, Madam Speaker, as it relates to borrowing and to lending? I keep repeating lending, Madam Speaker, because it's two sides of one coin in the case of this government. Only in October, Madam Speaker, we came to this House and $50 million was borrowed from local banks. $50 million from local banks. We came to this House. Now an overdraft, Madam Speaker, $55 million from local banks. Why is there, Madam Speaker, such a necessity to borrow from local banks? Is it because the government cannot raise the money through bonds or even treasury bills? Is that the case, Madam Speaker? Somebody needs to tell us. But also ask the question, why is there so much liquidity in the banking system? And why are local investors not using those monies for the development and other investment projects? Why is it that more persons are not taking loans to build houses? Why is there so much liquidity in the local banking system that the government can be raiding the local banks, Madam Speaker? Why? Is there a crisis of confidence, Madam Speaker? But this government told us, like the member for Library said, that this was going to be a private sector-led growth strategy. Investors will be bringing millions to St. Lucia, Madam Speaker, and there will be no borrowing in this country, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I ask the question, Where is all that investment that we were told would be coming? Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister, a member for Mico South, said on a talk show program recently he had gotten a loan of 150 million US from Taiwan for roads in St. Lucia, so people can continue to see all the roads that have been built in St. Lucia. A loan of 150 million US dollars is about $400 million EC, Madam Speaker. If this country has taken a loan of $400 million, Madam Speaker, why has it not come to this House? Why has it not come to this House? Madam Speaker, what will be the impact of a loan of $400 million, Madam Speaker, on this country? And we are made to believe that this motion is just matter of fact, and we should just accept it. This, in some ways, Madam Speaker, is an indictment of the fiscal management of this government, Madam Speaker. Because he made promises to the people of St. Lucia that there will be no borrowing. But 6 weeks before the end of the financial year, they are borrowing $55 million through advances. But, Madam Speaker, that's not all. The Prime Minister also said he was also going to get a loan of $150 million for the airport. That's another $400 million, Madam Speaker. Between the airport and the roads program, that's $800 million, almost $1 billion that this country is borrowing this year. Well, you call it preschool maths. I know I only went to preschool, Madam Speaker, and I can add 400 million and 400 million, and I think it tells me it's 800 million. But they've not come to this House. They've not come to this House to seek approval. Now, we were told, Madam Speaker, and we'll deal with this, not today, because we'll have enough time next month to deal with it, Madam Speaker, is 150 million US dollar loans for roads using the $1.50 fuel tax. But that's another story for another day. $150 million US for the airport. That'd be, well, unless you kill me, Honorable Member, and God takes me away, I will see that day, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, you heard the kind of cryptic comments they're making, Madam Speaker. But let's continue, Madam Speaker. The Diga Road, Madam Speaker. The Diga Road, Madam Speaker. A road that had about $5 million for design. An existing road, you know, Madam Speaker. An existing road, Madam Speaker. All you have to do is resurface it and fix a few drains. Had about $5 million, I am told, Madam Speaker, for design. It came before this House, Madam Speaker.
On a point of order, I wish to advise the Honourable Member for Castries South that is incorrect in as far as the cost of the designs embedded in the contract.
Madam Speaker, can the Honourable Member for Castries North indicate what is the figure?
Honourable Minister. Please proceed, Member for Castries South.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, Honourable Member for Castries North, for clarifying it's not 5 million. It may be 4.5 million. But Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, let's proceed because that's not the fundamental point. The point is, Madam Speaker, a document came before this House for debate on that loan for that road. And it was withdrawn by the Honourable Prime Minister. It has not returned to this House. It has not returned, Madam Speaker. And I noted, and my recollection tells me, Madam Speaker, that we were required to start repaying that loan in September last year. I'm sure, vaguely, Madam Speaker, I sat here and I read it. September last year. Is it that we've started repaying a loan for a road in Mico South, but the House has not even yet approved it, Madam Speaker? And we are made to believe to just approve $55 million because it's normal? It's not normal, Madam Speaker. It's not normal. It's available to you, and you can use it if it needs be. But it is not normal, Madam Speaker. It's not required. Madam Speaker, you know what's most disturbing about all of this, Madam Speaker? When, Madam Speaker, I listened to the Prime Minister discuss the DSH project, Madam Speaker. DSH, man. And again, Madam Speaker, and listen to me carefully about this, Madam Speaker, because we have the CIP in St. Lucia, which is supposed to earn revenue for this country. We have a donations option where money is supposed to go to a national economic fund, Madam Speaker, that Parliament is supposed to approve the use of those monies. And listen to what the Prime Minister says to us about DSH. He first announced it on Rippon's program sometime last year, that the developer will be upfronting the monies, Madam Speaker. He will build the racetrack, and we will reimburse him through our CIP. So he will spend listen to this, the developer will spend the money, build the racetrack, and we'll reimburse him with our passport monies. Last week or week before, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister took this idea to levels that one would never believe was possible in this country. And listen to what the Prime Minister told us. And all of that is linked to borrowing, Madam Speaker, because we have resources in this country that can be used to repair schools, that can be used to repair wellness centers, that can be used to deal with the issues facing our hospitals. And the Prime Minister says to us, Madam Speaker, and the people of St. Lucia must listen to this, that the developer will build a racetrack, we will reimburse him with our passport monies, he will then give it back to us. He will give it back to us. He will give it back to us because racetracks don't make money. So he's giving back to us something that does not make money. We will then engage him in a management contract, which means to pay him to manage it, for us. So there it is, he's building something, we pay him back for it, he gives it to us, but it makes no money, and we will then engage him to manage it and operate it and pay him to do so. Now this is bewildering. Why would you take something from somebody which is not making money, pay him back with your passport monies that we can spend and avoid us coming to this house and borrow $55 million, but now we're going to pay him to manage it when it is not making money? But there's a further secret. The Prime Minister says there was a need to lease the land to the developer so he can use it as collateral. Think about that. So we leasing the land to the racetrack for him to use as collateral to get a loan. So that developer is using our land as collateral to get a loan to build the racetrack. He's not repaying the loan. We're giving him the money. He repays the loan, he gives it to us because he's not making money. But why is he doing that? And why are we even accepting that? Hear what the Prime Minister says. The racetrack does not make money. It is the cheese that attracts all the money-making investments. It's the facilitator. So there you have a smart man who's a developer saying, this thing doesn't make money. I'm going to give it back to y'all and then pay me to manage it. But I need it so I can attract, because that's the cheese, I can attract all the money-making investments. Now, all the money-making investments will be paid with our CIP monies too. But he's not giving it back to us. He's only giving back to us the one that does not make money. You follow me, Madam Speaker? The one that does not, now the Prime Minister words, these are his Prime Minister words. The Prime Minister said it is the cheese that will bring in other investment. The Prime Minister says it is a facilitator. The Prime Minister says the other elements will be paid using our traditional CIP investments. The Prime Minister says that. So the gentleman is going to build everything. The one that does not make money gives back to us, but he needs it. So we're going to pay him to manage it for us, and use our CIP monies. It gets even more bizarre, Madam Speaker. The same gentleman says, I am only putting temporary facilities at the racetrack, and I'm going to start some races and bring down investors to see what I am doing and to try to entice them to invest. So he's not even putting permanent facilities, because he doesn't even have confidence that it will succeed. But he will put temporary facilities with the hope of speculating. So you put temporary facilities, you have some huge races, and there may be races in St. Lucia next year for sure, Madam Speaker. Multi-million-dollar races paid for by our passport money. But he's only putting temporary facilities, because if it fails, then nothing is lost. That is the policy that guides borrowing in this government, Madam Speaker. And you know, last week, Madam Speaker, or week before, there's a place in London called the Excel Center. Huge exhibition hall. You know that, I know that. I studied in London, Madam Speaker. I did a master's in England. I did a PhD in London. And I worked there for 3 years, Madam Speaker. You understand? So I know it well, Madam Speaker, just like I know other parts of the world well. And there are people in this house that cannot leave St. Lucia because they're under investigation, Madam Speaker. I'm not one of them. Madam Speaker, you know what happened at Excel 2 weeks ago? But, Madam Speaker, by the way, the Prime Minister announced.
Order, please.
Madam Speaker, a few months ago, 2 months or 3 months, the Prime Minister announced that he was going to take an investigation into allegations that a particular member of this House was under investigation. I would really want the Prime Minister at the next sitting to present a report of that investigation as to whether there is, in fact, an investigation into a particular member of this House. But back to Excel, Madam Speaker. At Excel, Madam Speaker, there was an international gaming conference taking place. International gaming. It's called ICE. You could Google it. ICE. It's online and offline gaming. And as it turns out, Madam Speaker, persons that I know, professionals, whatnot, messaged me and said to me, what's this thing going on? Because there are a group of investors selling this development in St. Lucia for gaming in horse racing. And he cannot believe that this is what St. Lucia has on the table. And I tried to ask, well, who are those people? Because I don't know that anybody from St. Lucia went up to sell any gaming. But apparently, the speculation continues, and St. Lucia is a laughing stock. Because at this global conference on online and offline gaming, St. Lucia is being speculated for shares and investment in this big gaming enterprise that will be taking place in St. Lucia. And the people of St. Lucia know nothing about it, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, that's DSH for you. That's DSH for you, where we are lending money of our CIP. Now, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister also announced at the signing of the range development, Madam Speaker, where a developer had signed the traditional CIP approach, where he will go and find investors to invest in his hotel. And those investors would pay, and once they invest, they would get a citizenship. That had been abandoned. And the Prime Minister now says, and he announced the deal, that persons who can make a contribution through our donation, Madam Speaker, the donation money goes to the National Economic Fund to pay for health care, for education, repair of schools, repair of playing fields. He's now taking that money, not for the people of St. Lucia, and he's giving it to a loan to the developer at 2% per annum. The Prime Minister said it. He said it. So we're going to take almost 450 million EC dollars of monies we will get from the sale of our passports, and we're giving it to a developer to build a hotel that the developer will own. And the developer repays it at 2% interest, Madam Speaker. So we're borrowing money at 6%, 7%, but we're giving a developer, Madam Speaker, a loan from our National Economic Fund. And the Prime Minister, we've told, Madam Speaker, over and over that this is illegal. The laws does not allow for that. The same press conference, the Prime Minister said at the next sitting of this House, he's coming with a document to correct this. Of course, this is the next sitting, and it has not been presented to this House, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we have range. We have DSH. DSH, Madam Speaker, is the most bewildering and illogical investment. For a Prime Minister who said it was idiotic to subsidize rice, flour, and sugar for poor people in this country because other people were benefiting, to now take our monies, give it to a developer to build a racetrack, which he gives back to us because it's not making money. We pay him to manage it, and he uses that to get all the other investments that make money, that will be built with our CIP money. And you tell me, Madam Speaker, I'm only of a preschool education. I'm one of the 43%. Madam Speaker, you see this borrowing motion? Yes, Madam Speaker. Many times in the past, other prime ministers and ministers of finance have come to this House to get approval for overdraft facilities, Madam Speaker. But I am disturbed, Madam Speaker, when this thing is treated so frivolously, 6 weeks before the end of the financial year, from a government that told us that the economy is doing well. The member for ancillary economies, Madam Speaker, and we will respond to him appropriately at the right time, Madam Speaker, to boast of how things are so bright and prosperous in this country, Madam Speaker. Bright and prosperous. And then to come to the House to borrow another $55 million It's not as simple as that, Madam Speaker. It's not as simple as that. Thank you very much.